So we're back, and it's a sunny day in Warsaw, and we have some news that's basically old news, but it's being rehashed in the attempt to attack and destroy Donald Trump even further. But you can see how the mass media is out of ideas, so they're just doing the same playbook. First, we have this small version, then we'll get to the bigger version. But the little attack is that Donald Trump forced to deny claims he's meeting Vladimir Putin in Moscow. Apparently, a French magazine said that Trump would be going to Moscow on May 9th for the Victory Day parade. May 9th is the official end of World War II. In Russia, it actually ended May 8th when the Germans surrendered to the Allies, but then the Germans were again forced to surrender to the Soviets, the Russians, on May 9th. So May 9th is Victory Day in the Great Patriotic War, the fake name given to the conflict. World War II, of course, started on September 1st, 1939. You could go back even to the Japanese invasion of China. But as far as the war in Europe, it began September 1st, 1939, when Germany invaded Poland. And then the 17th of September, Soviet Russia invaded Poland from the east. But that's conveniently forgotten and ignored by Putin and the Russian Federation as it currently stands. Maybe in the future there'll be honest leaders in Russia, but currently they are not there. And of course, the Great Patriotic War, this fake propaganda name, which starts with the German invasion of the Soviet Union in June of 1941, is meant to show that Russia bore the weight of World War II and that they were victims and they fought back against the evil Germans when they, in fact, started World War II with Hitler hand in hand. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact was signed August 23rd of 1939, dividing Poland up between the Soviets and the Germans. And so they worked very happily and gladly with Hitler. Stalin and Hitler worked hand in hand. They never met, but they were fans of each other, and at least for that period of 2 years before Hitler decided to invade the Soviet Union. So the Soviet Union and now Russia is known for fake news, disinformation, manipulation, and propaganda. I mentioned in my last video, this is a book I'm going to focus on for another video. This highlights the fact that disinformation and manipulation of information is something that Russia has been doing for a long time, and it has not changed. And especially in this case, we have news coming from a French source, as if the French are credible. Macron especially has been calling Putin regularly throughout the last 3 years. He's buddies with Putin, you could say. I'm sure he would give him a warm bro hug if he met him today. So the fake outrage about Trump contacting Putin and having a phone call with him is ridiculous when this has been going on for years, all throughout the Ukraine war. And a fake report coming out of a French magazine states that Trump is going for the Victory Day parade May 9th in Moscow, which is not true, according to Trump himself. Who knows where this report came from? Of course, if Trump does go, then this report will have been proven accurate. I don't think he's going to go. I don't see any benefit to him going, but I just see it as another way that disinformation works. You put it out there. Doesn't matter if it's true or not. People buy it. They buy the lie first, and then you can correct it or whatever, but the impression is always left there. And now we get to the main event, continuing with this theme, that a Facebook post came out, of all things, claiming that Trump was recruited by the KGB with the code name Krasnov almost 40 years ago. And the claim was made by the former chairman of Kazakhstan's National Security Committee, Alnur Musayev, who escaped Kazakhstan, I believe, in 2007. He fled Kazakhstan, accusing the government of corruption, while he was convicted of crimes in absentia as a result of his defection. I don't know this guy's entire backstory, but he makes this claim on Facebook without any sources. And then the question is, if he knew this, why is he revealing it now? No sources, no credibility, I think, is the rule of thumb. If someone just says something, you really have to think long and hard of where it's coming from, and better not to even think about it too much. I'm not even going to read the entirety of this this post. I skimmed through it, but why would I put stuff into my brain from a source that I have no faith in? Someone who, I'll bet you, was trained in Moscow as an intelligence agent, and now I'm supposed to believe that he had to come to Jesus moment and he wants to warn the world about Donald Trump. If anything, this guy is still working for the Russian intelligence services, and he's been triggered now to do his dirty work by presenting this accusation against Trump without any evidence. Why is this coming out now from this Musayev fellow? Why, if he cares so much about democracy, he mentions in the post about how America is threatened and Trump has his teeth sunk into the Oval Office now, and America's elites know that he's an agent and they're trying to get rid of him, but they can't. Why now? Why not when Trump was president the first time? Or did you just get this information? BS. This stuff is the same as what was done 8 years ago. And let's go back to the Steele dossier. Do you remember the Steele dossier? The fake dossier prepared by Christopher Steele for the Hillary Clinton campaign. And here we have two posts. I'm not going to read the entire post, but Paul Gregory, a solid historian and Russia specialist at the Hoover Institution. I believe he's still at Hoover. I haven't been in touch with him for a long time, but this is his issue, basically. He analyzed why the Steele dossier, the fake accusation from 2017 that Trump was a Russian agent, was fake. It didn't pass the smell test. The dossier information did not match the operating tactics and strategy of the Russian secret services. As Gregory writes, unlike media, the FBI, and intelligence services, I had no special sources or leakers. Instead, I had to rely on common sense made muscular by more than a half-century of following the Kremlin and, most recently, Putin's hybrid war against Ukraine. Instead of chasing after the dossier's few verifiable facts, I used simple smell tests. Do the events described in the dossier make any sense, given what we know about how Putin and the Kremlin operate? In intelligence circles, the credibility of sources is the first question asked. Are they who they say they are? Can we trust what they are telling us? Do the sources have a hidden agenda? On all counts, Steele's sources fail. Steele identifies his sources as, quote, trusted compatriots, knowledgeable sources, former intelligence officers, Ministry of Foreign Affairs officials, and an ethnic Russian in Trump's immediate circle. One of his sources even works within earshot of Putin. This is an impressive list for a retired MI6 agent turned opposition researcher who had not actively worked in Russia for a quarter century. So I'll link these two articles. One is Paul Gregory's original article from 2017. Remember, it was shortly before Trump's first inauguration that fake news was put out. claiming that Trump was, when he was in Moscow some years earlier, he hired prostitutes to urinate on the bed. Again, this is it's like a dystopian nightmare of disinformation and fake news. This is why the term fake news became what it is, because these outrageous BS claims are put out there. People buy the propaganda because people tend to believe the first thing that they heard, even if they're well-intentioned. If there ever is any correction or modification or denial of the original report, it's never as effective or as wide-reaching as the initial report. And that is the point. That is the point. So I know we live in interesting and seemingly dangerous times, but keep in mind that a major part of that sense of anxiety and danger comes from the mass media. The mass media is more advanced than it ever was. It's in our pockets. We get messages on our phones. We get messages on our watches. We get billboards. We get digital billboards everywhere pushing all kinds of agendas and symbols and things that are meant to affect us, to affect our perceptions of reality. The best way to judge reality is to use your judgment. Unfortunately, in schools, they don't teach logic like they should. I don't think they teach logic at all. I had to take a class in college. That was my only class in logic, to understand whether something that is being presented to you makes any sense, because people assume that something that is presented from a expert or from a established source, like a media source, is automatically legitimate. I mean, they wouldn't lie. Maybe there's some manipulation there, but the basic facts are right? But no, that is not the case. Let me know if I'm on the right track, because not a lot of people are talking about what's going on here in Poland and Eastern Europe and the issues involved in English. It's a very closed environment here in Poland, unfortunately, and I'm trying to do my small part to break through that. So that's all I have for you today. Please leave a comment below if you found something of value in my commentary. Did I miss something? This is a pretty quick hot take, but I have been following this disinformation against Trump for a while, and honestly, the rule of thumb should be don't believe anything you hear about Trump, because it's probably a lie, the first thing that you hear, and then the truth comes out later, but the truth is slow to get its shoes on. There's the saying about how a lie is halfway around the world before the truth gets its boots on, and that's the way propaganda, disinformation works. The lie, the manipulation goes out first. It does its rounds, it gets into people's brains, and then later maybe the truth comes out, but the truth is like a little mouse, and the lie is like a giant that's stomping on everyone, and people don't notice the mouse unless they're looking for it. So this is what I'm trying to do here, is trying to look for the truth, trying to, in this world of lies, let's try to find the truth. Let's try to understand what the world is that we're dealing with and strive for something better. So you can not dislike Trump, but don't base it on fake information put out by his enemies, and probably even put out by the Russians themselves. As I mentioned about this Musayev fellow, he could very well be working for Russia still, and that's probably why he's safe and living in Vienna. Apparently there was a kidnapping attempt against him, but I think if the Russians wanted to get him, they would have. But it's more likely that he is an asset working for them. And the Kazakhstan wanted him out of there for some reason, and he accused the government of corruption and whatnot. I trust the Kazakh government more than the Russian government, that's for sure. So if he had a problem with the Kazakh government and that's why he left, I think the problem is more likely with him than with the Kazakhs. And then he comes out with something like this 40 years after it supposedly happened without any evidence for it. So I don't think this guy is credible one bit. Like I said, you don't like Trump, base it on facts, not on fakes. All right. Talk to you later.